you ready for this?
Gonna be fun.
You will not stand in my way.
Frostborn, hunger. This pleases me.
I do not fear you, mortal.
Your soul shall be mine.
Don't make me laugh.
Needs a brew? Oh, I do. Feel a shredding, baby. Let the battle begin.
So hello and welcome to the 27th episode of the Nexus Trolls, a podcast all about Heroes of the Storm. So I'm your host, Linus Daz Kilius, and I'm joined today, as always, by Mystic and Liqiud. How's it going, boys?
Hello.
It's going, man. It's going.
Maybe I should start saying by Mystic, and then I say, how's it going, Mystic? And then I let him say it, and then I say, how's it going, Liqiud, and let you say it, instead of having you guys always fight for it. I kind of give myself a bit of a giggle over it, though, to see who's going to chime in first, and so maybe I'll have to keep
who's
that
going to get it done?
Okay, so we've got a ton on the docket today, too, because it's not a lot of news, but we thought, we've been putting off talking about Uther, Genji, and Hanamura in detail, because there's just been so much to cover with 2.0 and all these patches and hero reworks and everything dropping. But today we're going to dive into those guys a little bit more in detail, go over their talents and ability trees and everything too. So we've got an exciting show packed full of stuff as per usual. So I'm pretty excited to get into it. But before we do, I'm going to thank our patrons over at patreon.com/thenexustrolls. The show is always going to be free, guys. Don't worry about that at all. But if you're looking for a way to support the show, head over to patreon.com/thenexustrolls and you can do so there. So, how's the last week been treating you guys? You've been opening a lot of loot boxes. Liqiud, you've been hoarding them, have you?
No. I'm trying to remember. Did we do the show after the launch? So I already busted out that I opened them all?
You told us that you didn't hold to your promise of hoarding them for the future.
In fact, I've been playing a couple of games here and there with my wife, and as I get new loot boxes, I immediately open them there as well. So yeah, I've given up the dream of holding the loot boxes.
I've gotten to the point where if I get a loot box and I'm like queued up with a whole bunch of people, I'll be like, hold on, guys, I gotta open my loot box before we queue up again. Because I'm just so excited to see what's
you're looking for.
Well, exactly. The thing that I've been really impressed with, I assumed when we had 2.0 drop, we're going to get our 60, 70 odd, depending on like how many games you played and what your player level was, loot boxes, and then it was going to be a trickle after that. So I opened all my 65 boxes, however many I got, and I was a little depressed. But then, lo and behold, I feel like I'm getting loot boxes every other game almost. And I'm playing heroes based on who's the closest to getting my next loot chest for. So Blizzard is onto something with the way they do this. I feel like this game is got like, I'm re-interested in it. Not that I wasn't interested before, but I've got like more of a drive to play. Have you been finding the same thing, Mystic?
Yeah, definitely. You level up your heroes, and you get a loot box. You level up more heroes, you get more loot boxes, and you just never know what you're gonna get.
I know. Have you guys been re-rolling a lot too? I'm trying to figure out my re-roll strategy. I almost re-roll anytime I don't get. If I get 4 commons, I re-roll almost every time. But outside of that, I'm always nervous to re-roll if I've got a rare because I don't want to mess it up.
If I get 4 commons and one of those commons isn't something I'm looking for, I definitely re-roll. I have kept a couple of 4 common boxes just because they had something I was looking for in them.
And oh man, anytime I see voice lines, I'm always like, oh, I feel like that's such like the trolley pull. Anything else, I'm kind of excited. But obviously, like skins and mounts. But I'm like, voice lines, really? I don't really see the point of them too so much. Like, how often are you actually gonna use your voice lines in game, right?
Well, I think I told. Go ahead, Mystic.
I was gonna say I kind of wish the voice lines were either a little bit louder, or I don't know, maybe it'd be too much to say that they're global for your team, because you can barely hear them when you press the button and then teammates are fighting or something.
It'd be cool is if they could make it so that the voice lines overtook pings. So instead of just having like a danger ping, it'd be like, watch out over here, like in Uther. That's my best Uther impression. Not sure if you could tell.
Could you imagine that though 5 times in rapid succession?
Oh no, not even at all.
Right.
Like, I know there's a reason they don't. It'd just be cool if they had some other application.
It would be interesting. Well, excuse me, and I told you, Daz, I think this was yesterday. Really, the only hotkey I use now is for my spray. So I'm at the point where I'm almost like nothing but my skin, my mount, and my spray matters. So the banner, I just don't like any of the banners. and the voice lines just don't really add anything to me. I'm not gonna use the taunt, and I don't dance, so it's almost like it's cool though. I like collecting everything, but I don't know.
What, you don't dance, Liquid?
No, I really don't. No.
When we go to BlizzCon, we gotta go out afterwards and we gotta see you cut a rug.
Liquid's got 2 left feet.
This is not good. You might get me into a karaoke bar with a drink or two, but no, dancing is not my thing. No.
Challenge accepted. Karaoke bar it is. If there's a karaoke, if you know of any good karaoke bars in and around the Anaheim Convention Center, send us a tweet. That's where we'll be Friday night after all the games are done. So maybe we should just dive into it here then. We've got a little bit of news, not a ton like I said before, but you know what? We're going to cover it regardless.
Someday, this will make a great story.
So first off, we're going to do some after show games today. Me and Liquid are going to take some after show games. Mystic unfortunately can't join us, but you know what? We figured let's try it out. We'll see how it goes. So if you're interested, just hang around after the show, /join the Nexus Trolls in game, and we'll catch you there. We'll share like the Discord information and everything, so you can hop on stream with us and play a few games. If we've got enough people, maybe we can even get some custom 5v5 games in, but if not, maybe we'll just do some quick match or whatnot. So week 2 of the Nexus Challenge is this week, and it's brought along with it quite a few disconnects from players coming over from Overwatch. And if you head over to Reddit, you will see that this is, I guess, an endemic issue. I haven't noticed it personally, but it's obviously affecting a lot of people. People are saying in particular, watch out for the Jaina's, because she's, I guess, one of the first characters you get. Maybe she's on free rotation this week, but apparently she's worse than the rest. So people are even giving advice, if you want to avoid the Overwatch DCers, queue up as Jaina, because then you're less likely to be queued up against a DCer. But I guess what's happening is this week you have to play 5 QM unranked or ranked games. You can't do it in AI with a friend to receive the Officer Diva skin in Overwatch and the pretty amazing Busan Police Hovercycle Mountain Heroes. But the Overwatchers that are coming over are just playing in game and basically AFK or throwing the game to make it so they can get through these games faster, and it's ruining everyone else's experience. Have you guys bumped into this at all? I'm sure you bumped into it on Reddit.
I mean, the assault on Reddit is real.
Yeah.
Let's start with that. Like, Jesus, there's a lot of threads about this. But I mentioned this last week, that taking the AI game away from weeks 2, 3, and 4, and 5, or I don't remember how many weeks the total challenge is going to cause something similar, because there are people from Overwatch that don't want to give the game a fair shake. They just want their skin, right? So they're doing the bare minimum they can to get that skin, where there are people that enjoy playing this game and play this game regularly, are having a bad experience. And you know, a lot of Twitter people and a lot of Reddit people are like, well, make it win 5 games. And while I get that, like, some people are just bad at the game, and changing it from play 5 to win 5 can be a negative experience for other people. Really, they just need to re-add the melee or the AI being a choice again, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree that probably fixed the problem, because this didn't seem to be a big issue last week, and last week they could do it in the AI. I'd like to see, though, some Overwatch fans coming over. I mean, I'm sure this is a very small minority of the fans. I don't want to like put all Overwatch fans in this category. So I'm sure most of them are actually giving it a fair shake and playing appropriately. But I'd love to see them try throwing in like an AI easy match or something too, because I almost wonder if it's possible. I wonder if you could.
It is. I played with 3 level 1s, and my wife, who for all intents and purposes is level 1, even though her account is not level 1. And it was her first actual game. In like her first, like, I sat down and played this game, and it was rather close. If it had been one more early player that didn't know what they were doing, the AI would have won that game, like 100%. It was
the AI that just sit there and they attack minions as you're just draining them down too. But I guess everyone's got to score somewhere.
Where were we? What were we playing? It wasn't Tower. No, maybe it was Towers of Doom.
Please tell me it was at least elite AI, right?
Yeah, that's what you play against when you play in versus AI now, by default. So that's what it was. And I think it was Towers of Doom, but it may not have been. I don't remember which map it was at this point. But we had the other 3 members wouldn't leave their lane to go do an objective.
You know,
And
elite AI is not so bad. I thought we were talking about beginner AI, recruit AI.
no. It's definitely it was elite. But the other 3 members, because they wouldn't leave their lane, we were constantly losing objectives.
Yeah.
And it was like I was like telling my wife, okay, go here, okay, go here, okay, do this, and it just it was a challenge.
Yeah, and actually that's one thing that people have been talking about too with the new players coming in the game, having a map like Hanamura being a little bit overcomplicated. I mean, we're going to talk about Hanamura a little bit later on in the show too, but in terms of a new player experience, it can be a little bit hectic. Like you think Towers of Doom is complicated, you know, put those players on Hanamura and tell them that, you know, that they've got to escort payloads and still push lanes out and such too. There's just so much going on in that map.
Right.
Okay, let's move on a little bit here. So Blizzard dropped a little hint a few weeks ago, back when they released the cinematic, that there were going to be clues to D.Va's kit in the cinematic. And of course, everyone said, "Oh my God, Genji's riding on D.Va's back in the middle of the cinematic as they're fighting Diablo. That's good. That's probably going to be heroic. Oh my gosh. Like, you know, this is going to be amazing." Of course, then Blizzard probably very responsibly decided to quell this fire before it took too much of a hold there. So Kevin Johnson from Blizzard, and he's one of their creative leads, said on Twitter, "Let me quell this notion. Allies will not be able to ride on D.Va." And so a lot of people, you know, collectively sighed there and were a little bit disappointed, but hey, it looks like we're not going to get any riding on D.Va anytime soon. I don't even know how that would work necessarily, so maybe it's for the best.
Expectations are really dangerous, i.e. the Deathwing, you know, thing.
Oh my God, there was so much salt about. I wanted it to be Deathwing too, but there was a. Reddit is salty lately. I gotta go with that. Like
lately,
dude.
Reddit, I feel like invented internet salt.
No, it definitely has its own like salt flavor, right? It's very heavy on the salt, but leading up to that, that reveal has definitely been the saltiest I've ever seen Reddit before. Like, in a single community.
I think it was on Heroes Forge when I was listening to them just recently. They were saying they think their tin hat theory was they were trolling there, but the next hero might be after D.Va, actually Deathwing. Because we have had some data mined hints that Deathwing is coming, because there were some Brightwing interactions with Deathwing, if I'm not mistaken, that came to light. I think it feels like 5 months ago, but they work on these heroes so far in advance. Maybe they just were recording Brightwing audio bites with Deathwing. So I feel like Deathwing is imminent. Maybe it's not a hero, maybe it's a map save, but I guess I feel like we're not going to get a map anytime soon with Hanamura just being released. But yeah, it might be a great troll too. You let him down just to bring him back up again the next week, and if Deathwing does get announced as a hero, oh my gosh, we're going to be seeing Deathwings in QM for months on end.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so have you guys been watching any Try Hard for Good?
I have, actually.
Yeah, a little bit here and there.
So for those of you that don't know, Try Hard for Good is something that kind of slipped under the radar a little bit with the Heroes 2.0 launch. Basically what it is 3 League of Legends pros or ex-pros, Skara, Voyboy, and who am I missing there? Mystic? Dyrus are getting coached by 3 professional HOTS players. So that's Chew8, Dunk Train, and KO.
Yep.
Yeah, and they're getting a week of training each, which just finished, I think, yesterday. And now they're getting thrown to the wolves, basically, and they're going to be going into ranked play and trying to rank up as fast as possible. And the reason they're doing this is it's a charity event. So the higher up they get in play, and for every Hero League win, Blizzard's actually making a fairly sizable donation to charity. And if you do the math, it ends up being like many tens of thousands of dollars. And the real genius here, and we talked about it last show, is that these very prominent League of Legends streamers are bringing a really solid League of Legends viewership over to HOTS, which is obviously something that, you know, HOTS has been dying for, to get people to convert over from League of Legends, and hopefully this is going to be something that'll help out. So, Mystic, tell me about your experiences watching. I think you were watching Skara play, as well as who else were you watching there too?
So I was watching some Skara, and along with everybody else, he was so surprised at how tanky Varian was with his Protect. I think he was like in the middle of 5 people, and he was just sitting there spamming the protect, and he's like, I bet he was just thinking, I'm just gonna die here, and then he's like, wait, I lived, and he had like a sliver of health, and then just he walked out after being surrounded by 5 people.
Not only did he live, I think he got 4 kills that time. Like, it was insane. And, like, his chat was blowing up like Varian's broken. Like, what is that? Like, how is that a thing? Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like Varian's broken too, and we're trying to beat down on a Varian.
Listen, Varian's not broken. Varian's fine. Y'all need to just learn to play around him.
Yeah. And maybe not attack him when he's got his protect up too.
Right? Like, just walk away.
Yeah.
Ignore him. Like, that's the best thing you can do.
Yeah,
Instead, everybody's like, let me tunnel him. Let me tunnel him. It's like, thanks. I can just keep popping that protect. Yep, keep hitting me.
How about you, Liqiud? You've been watching a lot of the tryhards
I
for
have.
good play?
Probably not as much, right? Because I watch, like, a ton of all the HGC I can, which usually eats up all my time, especially now that I've been playing WoW more. And I do have to say, though, I saw this tweeted out earlier. Dyrus hit Diamond 3, and so that's another big chunk of money going over. And I have seen a number of Reddit threads from League of Legends players saying, you know, I thought this game was a joke, then I watched my boys play it, now I came and played it, and now I'm having a great time. It's totally different than League of Legends in like good ways. So I think it's kind of accomplishing what they set out to do. I'm not sure I would have done it at the same time as the promotion for the Overwatch stuff, just because, like you mentioned, we have all these Overwatch players that really just don't care about anything but getting their skin. So
Yeah, and I think when I was watching Scar, I'm not sure if he finished his promotion matches or placement matches, but it looked like he was playing against some higher level gold players too. So I think Scar might have a little bit of work to do to catch up to the other guys there. Missy, do you think they're going to make it all the way up to Grandmaster?
I've been hearing some things around the grapevine that they're like, oh, they probably won't make it to Grandmaster, but honestly, I think Boy will. I think Scar might make Master. I think Dyrus might also make Master. I don't know about Grandmaster.
Well, it's not a simple task for anyone, let alone someone who's just started playing the game like literally a week ago too. So
I think having watched them play, especially toward as it got later in the week, I think they're definitely capable of doing it. The question is, will they put enough time in to do it?
Because that's one thing I did notice too. They're not just playing HOTS. They're still streaming. Obviously, they've got their livelihood, I'm assuming in most cases, to consider as well too. I mean, I'm sure they're getting paid by Blizzard to do this as well as for charity, which is great. But still, they have to make sure that they're catering to their audiences respectively as well. So they are splitting their time in there.
Exactly.
Well, Liqiud, are you ready?
I'm ready.
For what's next? Let's see it.
Hey yo, how you doing? It's time for Liquid's Esports Corner. That's right. And you're gonna want to stick around for this.
Let's just stop that because it was
Come on, man.
looping.
I was about to look for a party horn in your.
I think Lucio just hijacked the stream there.
That would have been really good. And then just like fade right into Lucio's music. That would have been even awesomer. All right, so lots going on. I'm gonna try and condense this into as little bit as I can, just because there's a lot I want to kind of go over. But the big news for me, and the news that got me so hyped, I think it was yesterday, but it might have been the day before. All my days are kind of blurring together right now. No, it came out Monday night after China finished. All HCC games going forward are on 2.0. They are on the patch we're on. There's just no Genji allowed right now, which is huge because I don't know if you remember, but last week I tweeted out mid-show, and Trixler got back to me and said they were going to be playing on the old Probius patch. It's like, dude, like that's 3 big patches ago. Why you guys shouldn't be that far back? The internet as a whole blew up and said, you know, you got all these new people coming into this game. They're watching esports and they're like, what? Why does that look so different? So Blizzard has moved up to 2.0. If you log into the tournament servers, it is on 2.0. The build number matches. So that's really, really great news. Also, had a ton of games this week. There's only one team in HGC that still remains undefeated, and that is L5 in Korea. Every other team has taken a loss after this past week. So kudos to them. I'm going to cover them a little bit later, but they definitely deserve to still be undefeated. All right, so over to HGC China. We have E-Star, CE, and Super Perfect Team all tied at 4-1, which is awesome. Like, there's some serious competition around that number 1 spot. There's a lot of, like, you know, how the tiebreakers fall, and I'm not going to go into all that because, honestly, it makes my head hurt, and I just wait until we get closer to the actual last week of regular season play before I try to figure it out. But I do think E-Star or CE is probably going to end up on top just because Super Perfect Team, all good, I don't think is going to be able to take that number 1 or number 2 spot. It will be interesting to see what happens in the step ladder playoff system and who actually makes it through between those 3 teams. Obviously, the number 1 goes in automatically, but the number 2 has to get through a step ladder, and we'll see who wins that. Keep it simple and start over again are going to the Crucible. There is no way out for either of those teams. So in China, they will go to the Crucible. I have not found anything anywhere about the HGC China Open Division. So if you know anything, tweet us, send us an email. Daz will go over all that at the end. Tweet me specifically if you want. Doesn't matter. Just let me know. I've been trying to dig some up and can't find it. All right, over to which would normally be Korea. I'm going to jump to EU because I want to come back to Korea towards the end. Fnatic with a great performance this weekend catapults into first place, displacing Team Liqiud, previously known as Misfits. Dignitas also jumping up there into the number 2 spot, pushing Team Liqiud down to number 3. It was a crazy weekend in EU last week. Great games, fun to watch. Really enjoyed it, but damn, that was crazy. We have B Genius definitely going to the Crucible. I don't think anybody's surprised there. And Synergy is like 98% odds on ending up in the Crucible. So I think those are the 2 teams we're going to see going into the EU against 2 teams from the EU Open Division in the Crucible. They need to look out. Team Zealot and MAA both look pretty good. So those 2 teams are going to have to fight for their lives. But the important game to note, Sunday, Fnatic versus Team Dignitas. That has playoff implications written all over it. That'll be a good game to watch. That's on Sunday. HGC NA. Jesus, NA. Seriously. Can we just get our shit together, boys? Like, come on. I don't know what's going on. It's NA. I don't know what's going on. But, like, seriously, we have an Eventic. Like, absolutely crazy performance. 5 games. I'm like, I don't have words. That was a crazy game. But NA, number 1 still Tempo Storm, number 2 still GFE. They don't seem to want to keep that location. They seem to want to end up in 3rd, but they're still holding strong in 2nd. Neventic definitely going to the Crucible with either No Tomorrow or Team Freedom. I think Sunday will be an interesting game in NA as well. Gale Force Esports is playing Tempo Storm on Sunday, so that's going to be a fun one to watch too, if you can hang out and watch that one. Over to Korea, where arguably the best teams in the world are. Like, hands down, no matter what you try to show me, the Koreans are like the gold standard. L5 in number 1, MVP Black in number 2. Raven and Team Blossom are going to the Crucible. There's no way out for those 2 teams. And if I haven't mentioned it enough, Sunday is the day to watch. All right, like, this game, like, I haven't woken up like early in the morning for Korea since the break. I will be waking up early in the morning for Korea on Sunday. Like, I almost wish that I wasn't coughing so much right now because I want to do the, you know, like the monster truck Sunday.
There you go.
L5 versus MVP Black. You cannot miss that game. That game is huge and it's going to be so good. So if you can, pull yourself out of bed, watch that game. But if nothing else, Sunday is the day to watch games. Like, the 3 best games of probably pretty much this phase are going to happen on Sunday. So check those out. Over to the Open Division. Playoffs are set for both EU and NA. Team Zealot in number 1 in EU with 565 points, and MAA number 2 with 430 points. Team Zealot looks really strong. MAA does not look shaky either. So I would be worried if I was one of the EU teams, either B Genius or Synergy. And then, near and dear to my heart, NA, we have LFM Esports at 590 points. Those guys just stomped it out. Imported Support at 505 points, also a solid team. I don't see a way out for Naventic. I see Naventic getting booted out through the Crucible. Now, granted, clearly they can do some crazy things after this weekend. I'd be crazy to say they can't, but I don't think they're escaping the Crucible. And the last thing I want to point out, it does look like both UTA and Vox Nihili have both disbanded completely. So they're out of the open division, leaving the way open for LFM and Imported Support to get through.
So I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit, Liquid.
Okay.
If you were to rank the top 5 teams globally, how would you slot those in there?
They're all the
I haven't
Korean
answered
teams.
that. No. It is a lot of Korean teams. Hold on. I have an answer for that, but I don't want to cop out, and I want to give props where props is due. So give me a minute, because I'm glad you asked that. So I do another podcast on Thursdays with DB Smiley, who happens to write for GFE now. He has for a long time done a post where he actually does world ELO rankings for all of the professional teams, right? And his post hit GFE's website today. I am actually going to go ahead and slide a note in right now, just so it's there.
Yeah, and if you haven't had a chance to catch Liquid do the show, I listened to the first one he did, and I'm assuming the second one has it been done yet? Oh, it's tomorrow, right?
The second one was last week. Third one might be tomorrow. DB is really sick right now, so we may have to postpone that one. We'll have to see.
If you're looking for like an in-depth analysis of HGC, that's the best place to go. We give Liquid his own esports corner, but we obviously have to cover news and stuff as well too, right? So, but if you want to hear Liquid and TV Smiley talk about this stuff for an hour and a half, that's definitely the best place to go. And then it's not just like a quick summary like we do here for 10 minutes. We're talking like in depth and detail. Like DB Smiley's crazy. He lets Liquid just go, right? And that's the danger of asking questions like, can you rank the top five teams globally? I know that's not going to be a simple top 5 list. It's going to come with a discussion and everything afterwards. But it's a can of worms. I'm okay opening here. So I tried killing time for you there, Liquid, so you can get your resources and stuff.
No,
together.
I appreciate it. I happen to have the link handy because I was just reading it earlier today while I was working on my show notes for our show tomorrow. The only thing I want to add is we cover NA only. I've been kicking around an idea with Bags, and we haven't talked too much about it, but of maybe doing just an HGC show. I just don't know where I would fit it in, because like I love the idea of like in a more broader kind of scope, just HGC, and covering all 4 regions, or even more regions, right? If we can start getting Latin America news and Southeast Asia news and ANZ news, like all of that, right? And just kind of doing all HGC. But I'm not sure I have the time to do that, and he has the time, and that we want to really do it, because I had a lot of fun when I visited them over on I'm going the Weekly Blizz, and so the idea behind that, I'm still like kicking it around in my head. So anyway, all right, to answer your question though, I happen to agree with DB Smiley, and mostly it's hard to disagree because there's math behind this, right? He has like a really thorough methodology on how these teams get ELO points and what happens like if they lose against another pro team, but it happens to be at this kind of event, how many points does that change? But if it's at like a regional, how many points does that change? And like, so he has like a lot of math behind this. And what he worked out actually gave me what I happen to agree with. And so his top 5 are Now this is the only one that him and I disagree on. MVP Black is number 1 and L5 is number 2. I know why they're that way because we've discussed it pre-show, but I think it should. The HGC follower in me thinks L5 should be number 1. I understand the math side of me says no, MVP Black should be number 1, right? So take it as you will. But those are definitely 1 and 2. Fnatic number 3, Dignitas number 4, and Tempest number 5. Dignitas did just lose points. Fnatic did just gain points, right? Based on what happened this week in the EU. But I think what's really interesting here and what he'll cover, GFE is the only NA team in the top 10 in the ELO ratings. And if you go down a little bit further, like Tempo Storm is below Super Perfect Team at 13. But then you have to go down to 18. Like NA does not have a lot of teams in the top 20.
I don't think that's
So-
surprising many people, though.
No, it definitely doesn't, and which I understand, and that's my between this plus watching the games after going through the various HGC regions, I'm like it's a struggle being an NA fan, because I want my region, I want NA to do well, but I feel like every time they get in to an event and they go into like these world events, like the deck is stacked against them, and it's not the player's fault. It's Bags and I got into this. It's the infrastructure, right? We talked for like 20 minutes on this, and it really comes down to the infrastructure and just how people are. In fact, I think we even covered it a little bit on who do we have on this show like 3 episodes ago? Totally going blank now.
Bacon?
Yes. When Bacon brought it up, when he asked me what I thought about Korean hots, and you're like, oh God, no, don't ask that. We gotta move on, right? But that's the thing. Like when you get out of this region, if you take the 4 major regions, right? And I feel bad for Latin America, ANZ, and Southeast Asia because they really get less coverage, and there's quality teams there. But I feel like their infrastructure is even lower than NA's infrastructure, right? So when you get outside of the 4 major regions, there's almost no infrastructure. But if you're in NA, there's some infrastructure, but I feel like the teams just don't really understand what's required there. Granted, Team Liquid is now running what used to be, Tempo Storm, who has been around the esports industry for a while, is running their team here, and I feel like they aren't. I don't know if they're letting the team do what they want to do and not taking like an active management role in. I don't understand enough about how that relationship is working to actually answer that. But I feel like Tempo Storm as a whole should understand the amount of infrastructure you need to put behind your team to be competitive at a world stage, and it's not there, right? But then you get to EU, and they're a step up, right? You look at Dignitas, you look at Fnatic, and you look at Team Liquid. Those 3 teams have a lot of infrastructure behind them. They just do. That's just reality, right? And it shows when they go to world events, and it shows when they boot camp for world events. But they're still not quite to the level that you see out of Korea and China. And that I probably fundamentally blame on StarCraft. It was so widely embraced as a Korean and a Chinese game, and as a professional game that you could be competitive at and make money at in those regions, the esports was there and boomed there long before it boomed anywhere else. And so they have such a far lead on the infrastructure and the requirements of doing esports that EU and NA are still playing catch up. But EU's like, we're going to take this seriously, and we're really going to push to catch up. NA's like, that's cool, man. We'll catch up when we catch up. We're going to do this like NA does all their sports. We think having the talented player is really what you need. And so we have these really talented players. We just don't have the infrastructure behind it to support it.
Well, maybe there's a
Sorry,
bit of
I don't know how that question got me down that path.
Well, I know. I said the words HEC, and then next thing you know, you start going off on a tangent. No, but you know what? You got a very good point there, too. And maybe there's a vacuum in North America that could be filled. That's an opportunity for a team potentially to come in and dominate the NAC and maybe actually be relevant on the world stage, too, as well.
If I was, I've told my wife this a million times, and I would still firmly believe this. If I was independently wealthy, I would have an esport team, and I would sink the money required into it to like giving the infrastructure to that team, right? Coach, manager, a health coach, like all the things. I want you guys to live in a house. I want you to play together. Here's your salary. Here are the people that are going to support you in that dream. Let's do this, right? But that's not cheap. That's a lot of money, man, and you got to sink a lot of money in to do that. And do you really make that money back? Well, American salaries are more expensive than salaries outside of the country.
Yeah. But that being said, a lot of sports franchises are run and owned by people who understand they're going to be taking a loss on like a year-to-year basis too. So
right.
It might just be someone who is a fan of the game or esports and is willing to kind of take that early investment and understand that they can put the infrastructure in place and maybe not make money off the bat, but potential for it
right.
down the road, right?
So I want to just throw last thought out on this. Sorry,
yeah.
Because
you knew I was about to transition too.
No, it wasn't even the transition. McD Beat just brought up a really good point in chat. And he said Korea plays HGC on land, and that has an advantage. So does China, and that definitely has an advantage. But the reason they can play on land is because they have the infrastructure in place already as a country, accepting esports as like a thing, that all of the players are close enough that they can play on a LAN weekly, right? Like if you look at Gold League was on a LAN for a long time. And the reason Gold League was on a LAN is because all the players were clustered around the area, and all the teams said, if you want to play esports, this is where you live, because this is where the 3 esports arenas are, or however many. I honestly have no idea what China and Korea really has for esports arenas, but this is where they are. You live near here so that you can compete weekly in the leagues that we create, and you run into that. So I definitely think that would be cool. But then if you look at NA as a whole, like, we don't have that. There's some esports arenas in California. There's a new one being built in Vegas, but you're not gonna see that type of thing here in America. We like our freedom too much, and I want to live where I want to live, right? Which is fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not bashing that, but if as a sports player, and this is what brings me back around to our infrastructure's not there yet, if I'm a football star and the team hires me to play for them, during the season I live where the team is. Doesn't matter where I live during the off season. When football is going on, I live where the team is. When soccer is going on, I live where the team is. When basketball is going on, I live where the team is. It's the same way for esports. During the season, right, if you look at HGC as a whole, there's going to be a break after BlizzCon going into next year again, just like there was this year. So granted, the season's kind of long because that means you have like a 9.5-month season. But for 9.5 months, you live with your team. For the other 2.5 months, you can live by yourself. You live in a shack for all I care for 2.5 months. But for that 9.5 months, you live with your team and you compete in an arena, and then you'll see things start to change. But like, that's so far in the future for NA that, like, I'm more worried about, let's get real solid coaching. Let's get, psychologists. Let's get a team manager. Let's get all the people that can help keep the team together and working together. But you still have the same struggle. If all of my players aren't in the same place, how am I supposed to use a nutritionist to make sure they're staying healthy? How am I supposed to use a psychologist to make sure they're staying, active and not getting depressed and everything else, right? That struggle will always be there until the infrastructure is there. And that's just part of the infrastructure.
And like I said, we're just playing catch up, I guess, over here in NA, and eventually maybe it will catch up and the culture will change a bit. I did want to field a quick question from Ogre in chat too, because it's something I was struggling. I was going to put in the news segment, but recently in China, they released a law which required any video games that have any sort of like loot chest style mechanic where you have like a reward system. They're required now by law to release what the odds are of getting whatever said loot is. In this case of HOTS, it'd be like what the chances of getting like legendaries versus epics versus rares in your polls. Now, the reason I didn't put it in the news and I wasn't planning on covering it was because I haven't seen the numbers come out. I think that's what everyone is really interested in seeing, because everyone wants to know what is the actual chance of pulling that legendary, pulling that rare, pulling that epic. And I'm sure those numbers will come to light, but they haven't at least permeated into any sort of form that I can translate easily, right? Like a Reddit or something. Well, at least I saw.
They have to at some point, right? That's the point to the Chinese law, and why that thread existed and why the tweet started was, at some point somebody at Blizzard has to answer that for the Chinese, and once that happens, everyone will know.
Yeah, and I expect probably before next show too, because this law came into place, I think like yesterday or the day before maybe. I would be very surprised if we didn't have that information at our fingertips. That's why I was thinking I'll just leave it till next week, because this is great. Like, I think it's more for everyone's curiosity here than anything. To be honest with you, we could probably figure out the odds ourselves with enough little due diligence and work here, and I'm sure there's people that are probably putting up polls and everything already to figure out the generic pull rates and stuff for everything.
There's already a spreadsheet out there.
Yeah, and there always is. Me and Mystic.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, me and Mystic and Liqiud formerly at least played a game Final Fantasy Brave Exvius, and every time there was like a pull type mechanic, there'd be these spreadsheets popping up, and everyone would analyze what the odds are for pulling specific items or characters, and like Liqiud said, it's already popped up for this as well. So.
Right. Well, and somebody released some results, but. Like the Final Fantasy Brave Exvius one, it's only as good as the data you get, right? And Reddit is look, I love Reddit, and a lot of things come to light out of Reddit, But Reddit is such a small subculture of the people that play this game that you're never going to get really truly usable data out there. The same is true for hot slugs. I love hot slugs. We use it all the time on this show, but it's only going to count for games that people upload. And there are games happening that people don't upload that data for. It's not as many, but it exists. And that's really why Blizzard needs to release the APIs and let us query the data on their server. Be more like League in that case. Let me watch the game as an observer in the client. Let me query the data and see what the win rate of heroes are. I want to see all that stuff. And Blizzard can give it. They just haven't yet.
At least you can't troll hot slugs and skew the data like you can in Reddit, right? Like someone can go into Reddit and be like, "Oh, I pulled 5 legendaries in my 3 packs," and suddenly skewed the data sets and such too. So. Okay, well let's move along because we do want to cover our 3 main topics here: Genji, Uther, and Hanamura. We're already like halfway through the show.
Isn't our main topic? What?
it always ends up becoming that, especially when I ask follow-up questions. I should know better. Let's roll into Genji. And I know the past couple of weeks I've talked about his kit, and I feel like I kind of have to go over I'll go over it really quickly here because we have had a bit of an uptick in viewers probably with the new Heroes 2.0 coming out, a lot of new viewers. So a lot of you maybe haven't had a chance to play Genji. Just going over quickly, and I'll go over it like faster than usual too. He's got 3 basic abilities. Shuriken on his Q. That's where he throws 3 Shuriken out in a spread pattern, each damaging the first enemy it hits. He can store up to 3 charges. And the important thing to note too is Shuriken's cooldown will replenish all charges at the same time. So you can throw out 2, and if you've got 1 sitting there, when the 12-second cooldown is done, you'll get your 3 back all at the same time. You don't get them back one by one. So one thing we keep saying is, make sure you use them all before that cooldown comes, or you're kind of getting some wasted Shuriken. W is his deflect. It's become protected very much like Varian for 1.25 seconds. The only big difference actually between Varian and this deflect is this is a channeled ability, so he's locked out of doing anything. He gets stunned out of it as well, whereas Varian can actually attack and you don't have to worry about getting stunned out of his protect. So any damage go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, go ahead, finish your thought, because you're covering what I was gonna say.
Oh man. You know what? I'm going to let Liqiud take the rest of this deflect bit.
No. I was just going to say, it's a good trade-off, though, because when you deflect, you immediately do damage back. So if you... I actually think... I have seen Genji's deflect melt teams. I think deflect is actually stronger than Varian's parry.
The one thing that makes Varian impossible to kill is that he could spec into having it, so it's almost up all the time too. Whereas Genji, he's got a 16-second cooldown. You can't really reduce that cooldown too much. You can obviously, but not nearly to the level that Varian can. So what Liqiud was getting at there is, if you take any damage, and it's every instance of damage. So if you've got like a Li-Ming laser on you that's ticking damage, like a few times a second, you're throwing kunais back at the nearest target, prioritizing heroes equivalent to like that rate that you're getting hit at. And it can add up to a fairly significant amount of damage if it's like very high rated type of damage you're taking. So we're talking like Zarya's laser beam, maybe like Tastar's psionic storm, or like Li Ming's laser, Diablo's fire breath, that kind of stuff. You can do a lot of damage back.
I have a question for Twitch chat while we keep going, and that is if you have 3 Samurus attacking you during deflect. It prioritizes heroes, but does it prioritize the real hero, or does it hit the clones?
I actually know this one because I was actually in the middle of all these Samuro, and it actually just prioritizes the nearest one.
That you almost found a sneaky little bug in the game there. Yeah, that'd be an awesome way to detect the true Samuro. So on his E is Swift Strike. Dashes forward a significant distance, about 3/4 length of the screen, damaging any enemies in the line. Enemy heroes who die within 2 seconds after being hit by Swift Strike cause the cooldown and mana cost to be refunded. Very important for his playstyle. 2 heroic abilities, and I went from the first time we did this, leaning towards Dragon Blade being the best, to slightly starting to skew towards X Strike now after bashing it the first time we talked about Genji. But anyways, he's got Dragon Blade. He unleashes the Dragon Blade for 8 seconds. While active, Dragon Blade can be reactivated to lunge forward and slash in a huge arc, dealing 240 damage. He can't auto-attack or use his Shuriken during this ability. Like the Shuriken button's actually replaced by the Dragon Blade button. And if an enemy hero is killed within 2 seconds after being hit by Dragon Blade, Swift Strike's cooldown is reset. So it gives you a little extra mobility there too. X Strike is his other ultimate. Perform 2 perpendicular slashes that deal damage and ignite after a second, 1.25 seconds, dealing an additional bunch of damage in the area. And also, very important to note, when he's doing this move, he like jumps off the screen, very much like Monk when he's doing 7-sided strike. You can't be targeted or hurt, so it is a bit of like an escape button to like a panic button. You can jump off the screen and dodge any sort of abilities that might be troublesome. And then finally, his trait is Cyber Agility. It's on a 10-second cooldown. It doesn't cost any mana. You can use it to jump to a targeted area. You can use it to jump over terrain too. And by the way, Swift Strike can also go through terrain as well, giving extra mobility there too. So, Mystic, you've been playing a ton of Genji. Any surprises or anything come to light over the past couple weeks while you've been playing?
Not really. I mean, I know his win rate doesn't really show it, but I feel like he's an okay hero in almost any situation, because he just has so much. You can always be doing something, right? Your shuriken is a short enough cooldown that you can always be throwing them, really, and then you always have your auto attacks. His auto attack range isn't like super long, but it's okay. And yeah, all the stuff that I said in the past show, I guess in the previous show, still kind of hold true here, honestly.
So one thing that surprised me about Genji, because when I first was playing around with him, I was like, his shuriken don't feel like they do very much damage, but you can be tossing a lot of shuriken around. You can actually get a sizable amount of poke damage out of your shuriken too if you're constantly throwing those out. So like when you're in a team fight, engaged type situation, what's the best way to play Genji? Do you just kind of poke until you see your opportunity, and then do you dive backline? Do you try and come in from the side? Like what's your general play style? Because especially if you use that Swift Strike early, you don't get your resets. You can get yourself in a pickle very quickly. Like what's your thoughts on how you should take Genji into a team fight here, Mystic?
Well, my general take on that is you always want to be throwing your shuriken and always want to be auto attacking. So you're looking for that opportunity for someone to get low enough so you can Swift Strike in. And you want to be safe because you are the finisher. So if you can get one reset, right? So you kind of want to aim yourself so you dash through their entire team, finish off that person, and then once you dash back through the entire team again, that's 2 Swift Strikes. So that damage is actually pretty good. So when you dash through them both, and then if someone else is low, you kill them with your auto attacks or your shuriken, and then your Swift Strike is now reset, and you just keep going, right? And then so that's a lot of AoE damage. So
is he the best backline finisher in the game? Because that Swift Strike, that range, you can reach pretty much any backline that might think they're safe too, and the tanks often don't have time to collapse on Genji before he gets in and gets out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he definitely is a very good backline finisher, and yeah, probably the best one in the game right now, because Li Ming's, all of her shots, they have to go through like something, right? So they can be blocked by minions, Anubrak beetles, anything like that. Swift Strike goes through all terrain, it goes through all heroes, and it just hits anything.
Do you think we're going to see his win rate go up after we get, quote unquote, the new Genji players out of Quick Match and out of Hero League, and get more of the hardcore Genji players keeping on the hero?
I think his win rate will increase. I'd like to say it would go even as far as like maybe 55-56%.
Because what this reminds me of is Zarya too. Because last week's show we talked about how Zarya started really low. They give her a huge buff, and they slowly nerfed her back down to where she's pretty much where she was when she started in terms of her energy depletion rate. And I feel like that was a lot of people just learning how energy depletion works and how you play Zarya. I wonder if that's going to take hold with Genji. Or anyways, Liqiud, you were about to say something?
So, I agree. He's probably a 50%-ish hero. Upper 50s once you get some of the people out of the way. I think the biggest problem I have right now is Hotslog's disabled the 5+ hero level checkbox because of some changes with 2.0. So we can't. You used to be able to say, okay, well, show me anybody that has level 7+ or 9+ on that hero, and let's see the win rate there, and then you could kind of really determine where the end win rate might end up. But I think what I was looking to also point out this patch has been interesting for a lot of heroes. Like, I wouldn't have expected it, but Probius is the highest win rate hero right now.
And that might be a
Genji's
function
sitting at
of,
like. Go ahead.
that might be a function of the maps that we have in rotation too. We've got a lot of
That's
point
true.
control
That's
maps
true.
like Braxis Holdout. Probius can really shine there. At least the Probius players I've been playing with do a pretty good job. And even like your Hanamuras and such too, where you are sitting on a point
Right.
for an extended period of time. I was listening to ITN Into the Nexus, another great podcast, by the way, if you're looking for another more content to listen to. And they're saying the same thing. Like Gazlo has a bit of an uptick too in his win rate because of just the maps and the rotation. Like you get down to 6 maps, if a lot of them are point control maps, your point control characters are gonna have a bit of an uptick, and it might be disproportionately so from what you're used to seeing because of the maps out there.
But no, back to Genji. I think I'm hoping Blizzard doesn't tune him. There's a lot of new players in the game. Whether they're taking Genji or not, there's a lot of new players in the game, and you need to kind of let that settle out before you tune too much, in my opinion.
I agree. Ogre in the chat, again, another useful tip here too, is that he's amazing for checking bushes, looking for stealthies, because Shuriken, I feel like it's a very low-cost resource, and you tend to have Shuriken for everybody, right? Bacon would say it's Oprah with Shuriken. Here's some Shuriken for you. You get some Shuriken. You get some Shuriken. You just throw them around. You can almost just spray them around looking for heroes, and it's very useful for demasking that Valir trying to creep up behind you. Everything too. So very good tip. Thanks, Ogre, for that one. Okay, so let's get into his talent tree then too. We're gonna go over his build and maybe his more popular talents, that at least that we think we should be taking down the road here. So I'm gonna be deferring to Mystic as our resident diamond master level player, but ask him how his placements went this year, because this season, because they didn't go so well. But we all know that he's definitely a master level player, and I'll always brand him as such. So we'll take his advice accordingly here too. So just going over the talent tree here, starting at level 1, we've got 3 talents. Swift as the Wind, which augments his E as Swift Strike. Hitting an enemy hero Swift Strike increases Genji's movement speed by 30% for 3 seconds. Agile Dismount, which affects his D as Trey as Jump. While mounted, the range of Cyber Agility is increased by 70%, and its cooldown is reduced by 5 seconds. And then finally, Pathfinder, again, that's another D ability. Jumping over terrain with Cyber Agility increases Genji's movement speed by 25% for 6 seconds. So Mystic, what are we looking at taking at level 1?
My favorite here is Swift as the Wind, because as Genji, I'm always looking for those resets, right? You hit enemies with Swift Strike, and then you can reposition really easily. Like, if you go through the entire team, reposition, and if you get that reset, you can hit them again, and then that increases your movement speed by 30% for another 3 seconds, and you just keep doing that over and over. Pathfinder, I feel like, is also a really good talent. It's just more of a general use talent, whereas Swift as the Wind, you're looking for those resets, right? Pathfinder, you jump over a piece of terrain. It can be anything. There's a lot of terrain in Heroes of the Storm, right? So that's still pretty good. And then Agile Dismount, I don't know about this talent. I feel like it's okay in like very niche situations, but overall I think the other ones are much better.
Which is kind of ironic. I just opened up Hot Slogs here because my mind, Agile Dismount is a garbage talent. I couldn't think of a situation where you'd want to take that. Like, why, while mounted, do you care about the range of your jump? Unless you're trying to use it as an engage, but how often are you using an engage while mounted too, right? I feel like it's a very rare situation. Whereas, if you look on Hot Slugs right now, it's actually got the highest win percent. I have no idea why that is. It's probably, maybe it's a skewed thing. It's 2,000 plus games.
Yes.
So, that's not enough to say you can discount that altogether. And it's only picked like 11% of the time, and Swift as the Wind, as Mystic said, is the popular talent for a reason, because it's generally good. But I was just kind of surprised when I saw the win percentage there.
It's definitely a skew thing, right? If you think about the level 1 talents, you could play the entire game without the level 1 talent and not lose the game, right? So, but I think to me what's more telling is the popularity of the talent, in that it's picked more than Pathfinder, like, blows my mind. But then I remember, oh yeah, new people. like reading the talent, it seems like it might be interesting if you're a new player. Sure, I want my range to be increased by 70% and my cooldown reduced. Why wouldn't I? And really, I think people are taking that for the cooldown reduction. 5 seconds is not bad. That's half the time, right? It's 10-second cooldown, isn't it?
TB Tiny in the chat said that he sees one use for this. You can stay mounted in a bush, and you can use it there to use as a bit of an engage.
Yeah.
And I guess, 70% range increase is fairly sizable, so you could jump pretty far, and you could always swift strike out, as opposed to the alternative, swift striking in, not getting your cooldown, having a tiny little jump to get out. So maybe it is just an adjustment of play style, and maybe those 11% of people that are picking this know something that we don't. Maybe it's something worth investigating.
Kron agrees with him as well. And that's actually a really good point. If you're sitting in the bush mounted, which is typically what you would look like in the bush, that's a long way. And again, every 5 seconds you can jump. So
Mystic,
nice.
we'll give you some homework. You're gonna have to pick Agile Dismount every time you play Genji for the next week, and you'll have to let us know how it goes. See if you. Okay, let's move on to his level 4s.
You may like it. By the time you're done, you may be like, guys, that was crazy. I should have been picking that.
Yeah, and we've been wrong before. I remember with Lucio. I can't remember what it was. Rejuvenencia versus whatever we talked about those when we had what we thought were very solid reasons for picking one thing over the other, and then later on we discovered, over time you can realize how some talents are more superior to others. So maybe that's the case of it here. Maybe we'll be saying we're crazy for not picking Agile Dismount as the go-to talent level 1. But let's not spend too much more time on Agile Dismount. Let's move along to level 4. At level 4, we've got Shuriken Mastery. This is a questing talent. So you hit your enemy heroes with Shuriken, and after hitting 35 heroes, Shuriken's damage is increased by 30. And then after hitting 75 heroes, Cyber Agility now refunds 2 charges of Shuriken, which is kind of cool. Dragon Claw is another ability here, another talent you can take here. It's an activatable trait. An activatable ability. After Genji blocks a certain amount of damage, it's fairly sizable, 432 damage with Deflect, he may activate Dragon Claw to deal 187 damage to all nearby enemies. He's done a little bit of a circle there. I think he does a little whirlwind effect. And then Strike at the Heart E. On his E, enemies hit by the end of Swift Strike take an additional 144 damage over 2 seconds. And it really is the last, 10% of Swift Strike. I took this a couple of times, and you really have to be pretty bang on to get that extra damage onto your target. So Mystic, looking at hot slogs here, Shuriken Mastery is pretty much taken all the time. Is that what you think is the best talent here as well?
Yeah, that is my favorite talent as well, because the increase in damage for the Shuriken is really good, and then when the Cyber Agility refunds 2 charges of Shuriken, that just increases your damage by that much more, and it synergizes with one of the 16 talents. I think it's a 16 talent. No, 13 talent. It's Double Jump, which, you get a lot more Shuriken in that case. The other ones, Dragon Claw is okay. I feel like, you get a little bit of burst damage, and you can charge it up via towers, or even the end zone of the Towers of Doom map, right? It's very much like Zarya's shield in that sense. You can charge it very easily in those cases. And then Strike at the Heart, I feel like is also an okay talent because it does help you get those resets, but they kind of pale in comparison, I think, to Shuriken Mastery.
Dragon Claw is like 2 orbs, man. If you deflect 2 orbs, you're charged. I feel like that's an underrated talent, and I feel like knowing Blizzard, they're going to buff that number. Only because it's picked so little. They're going to buff the amount of damage that hitting that number 1 does for you.
Yeah, well, level 1 and 4 is, generally speaking, if you believe hot slogs, you almost have no choice which one you're going to pick according to hot slogs. We're looking at 75%, 76% popularity on those 2 that we talked about here. But right. I mean, it's always tough to turn down an extra ability, especially if you're a higher skill cap player too. It's like not taking Bone Spear for Zul, having that extra ability, which is, doesn't cost mana or anything too, can be very powerful, especially when you're looking for that burst damage to get that reset too. Okay, level 7. We've got 4 abilities. These are all I'm going to say his damage mitigation abilities here on level 7. So Augmented Guard. When Deflect ends, Genji gains a shield equal to 50% of the damage blocked for 4 seconds. Next is Perfect Defense. Deflected damage reduces the cooldown Deflect by 2 seconds, up to a maximum of 10 seconds. And just a reminder, Deflect is on a 16-second cooldown, so you can get, if you get enough of those off, down to a 6-second cooldown with that talent. His next one on this level is Dodge. It's a passive ability. Genji dodges one heroic basic attack every 5 seconds, stores up to 3 charges. That's his version of block. And then Cyber Shield. So using Cyber Agility, that's his D again, grants 50 spell armor for 2 seconds. So Mystic, is this depends on the situation type talent here, or what do you think people should be picking here?
I think it is depending on the situation. Augmented Guard isn't that bad if you're really good at blocking damage, or if they are really throwing a lot of damage at you. Perfected Defense, same type of deal. You'll have Deflect up a lot more, and then we have Dodge. If they have a lot of auto attackers, is even pretty good against Greymane or things like that. You know, the Dodge is always good. And the Cyber Shield, if they have a Li Ming, if they have a KT, then take Cyber Shield. 50 spell armor for 2 seconds. That's really good.
That's significant.
Well, what's interesting to me is, like, nobody picks Cyber Shield, and you know Li Ming and KT are out there right now, but nobody picks it. Like, 1,000 games out of 20,000. That's crazy to me. It's crazy. It's a lot of spell armor for nothing.
Well, Perfect Defense against, like, if you come up against a Tracer or like a Li Ming too, you might make a case for Perfect Defense, because if they're lasering you, you get your Deflect down to 6-second cooldown instead of 16, right? You stand the laser for a couple seconds, you go behind her, do a few moves, and next thing you know, your Deflect's up again. So I guess maybe there's an argument for that there as well. There are a lot of abilities that tick pretty fast the damage. Okay, so level 13. We've got Shingen on Q. Hitting an enemy with all 3 Shuriken deals 120 bonus damage. Flow Like the Water on his this augments his E. Each enemy hero hit with Swift Strike reduces its cooldown by 3 seconds. And finally, Double Jump. Cyber Agility stores 2 charges, but its cooldown is increased by 5 seconds. So Mystic, is Shingen the way to go? Are we on a Shuriken build here generally?
Shingen is good if they don't have a lot of lockdown for you, because you kind of have to get kind of close to hit them with all 3 of the Shuriken, unless, you know, you're just like amazing or something, right, with your positioning. So that's a really good talent. Flow Like Water. I think this talent is like kind of a sleeper talent, because each enemy hero hit with Swift Strike reduces its cooldown by 3 seconds. If you hit 4 heroes with it, then the cooldown is reset essentially. And his E, Swift Strike, with his name, right, is actually very fast. So if you are able to like spam it a couple of times across some of your enemies while they're kind of grouped up, it's gonna do a lot of AoE damage. Yeah, it's kind of hard to use, but I feel like it's a talent that nobody really takes. And then Double Jump, it's the general purpose one that I like to go with, which is if I'm fighting a bunch of spellcasters or something, or because it gives you the 50% spell shield or spell armor for 4 seconds, because you know you can use it twice, right? And then with Double Jump as well, with Shuriken Mastery, you can get up to 4 extra shots of Shuriken.
Yeah, and I guess the Flow Like Water talent, if we're talking about getting to the back line, if you go through the cluster in the front line on the way to the back line too, that definitely helps. If you don't get that reset, get your cooldown reduced, and he can go back and forth, like you said, and make him even more mobile. So yeah, it seems like there are a lot of good options on this talent here. It seems like where the issues, I guess, on his talent diversity come in are his level 1 and 4. But again, who knows? Maybe we're going to be finding Agile Dismount again be the popular choice come a few weeks. Okay, so his level 16s, we got 3 here. We got Reflect. Deflect also deals an additional 33% of the damage blocked. Oh, talk about deflecting a Pyroblast or something there, right? Final Cut. After 1 second, Swift Strike deals an additional 130 damage to all enemies in the area. And Steady Blade. Each enemy hero hit by Swift Strike increases the damage of the next Swift Strike by 20%. This bonus stacks up to 3 times. Yeah, you can get I'm seeing a lot of damage come out of his level 16s, and That's what you should expect from a level 16 talent here. Mr., what do you think about these ones?
Reflect is a good talent if you're going for the Zanshin for the level 20. Final Cut is the general purpose one that I usually take because it helps like with those resets. You know, you dash through them, and they're like, "Oh, I'm not dead from Swift Strike," and then the Final Cut part of it comes in, and then it kills them, and then it also helps with the AoE damage. Steady Blade, if you're really good at getting the resets, or if you take Flow like water, then it's actually pretty good.
Yeah, you can definitely see how a lot of the talents synergize from tier to tier with Genji, and how you can make more of like a Swift Strike build versus a Shuriken build per se, and like change up your playstyle depending on the talents you take. But oh man, yeah, I'd love to sit next to a KT as he's pyroblasting my face and just Swift Strike into the pyroblast, reflect it like on him, and give him 30% of the damage, taking none. I played a game as Genji recently. I think it might have been in game with you, Liqiud, there. Maybe it wasn't, but Kalefoss kept pyroblasting. I was like, what are you doing, bud? Like, if you're pyroblasting a Genji, you're doing something wrong, because it's like he's gonna it's like pyroblasting a Varian. Like, what's the point? He's just gonna protect through it.
It's
right?
it's the same guy that sits there and hits Varian while Protect is up.
Yeah, that's usually me. I'm so bad at stopping, hitting the barrier, like, oh, but it'll end in a second, and I might as well keep going. But no, it just keeps going because I keep hitting him, and yeah, reducing the cooldown. Okay, on level 20, we've got 4 talents you can choose from. Here, the Dragon Becomes Me. This augments his Dragon Blade. Every time the Dragon Blade hits an enemy hero, the duration of Dragon Blade is increased by 1 second. Living Weapon, this augments his X-Strike. Each enemy hero hit by X-Strike reduces his cooldown by 12 seconds. Sharpened Stars, Shuriken now pierces all enemies hit, and that includes minions too, so you can get a little extra wave clear using this too. I mean, it's a little bit late for wave clear. But Zanshin is his last one. If you block 6,500 damage with Deflect, including damage blocked so far, you will then get, as a reward, Deflect hits all nearby enemy heroes. And going back to that, like, you know, if you get the Reflect dealing damage based on the amount blocked, like a Flame Strike, or even sitting in Jaina's, like, you know, Blizzard, and just reflecting that to all nearby heroes, I feel like you can do probably quite a bit of damage if you get caught by like a burst combo too. Like, talk about countering a burst combo right there. So we didn't talk about the ultimates either. I guess you could maybe talk about those two here, Mystic. What do you think about the ultimates we can pick at level 10, then their augments, as well as the options that you have with Sharpened Stars and Zanshin here?
So I found more of a use for the X-Strike one, which it has, like Daz said, the invincibility frames of it, right? So you're entirely invincible during it. Flame Strike or even Pyroblast coming in, you pop it. Butcher, what is it? Lamb to the Slaughter, right below you, you pop it, and it's just mitigated, all that stuff. As long as you're not silenced first, right? So it's really good against heavy lockdown comps. So if they have those, consider taking X-Strike. Now, I still think that Dragon Blade is the better ultimate because it does do all that damage. It does put a lot of pressure on them because, oh man, if you hear that Genji like screaming that he's ulting, everybody's just going to be like, all right, here it comes, everybody get ready, right? And even if you use it, everybody on the enemy team will probably be wary of it and more of you than your team, so that also gives your team a chance to do something. But Dragon Blade does a lot of damage. Now for the level 20s, the Dragon Becomes Me, the ultimate of Dragon, or the augment of Dragon Blade. Each time Dragon Blade hits an enemy hero, the duration of Dragon Blade is increased by 1 second. So this is really good if you're not getting CC'd and you're hitting multiple enemies or even a single enemy, right? This synergizes very well with invulnerabilities and even cleanse. If you have a Tyrael or in a better case an Uther and he Divine Shields you and you use this, you're probably going to be wiping the enemy team unless they're all spread out, in which case you'll probably kill one person. We have Living Weapon, which is the other augment for the X-Strike, which is each enemy hero hit by X-Strike reduces its cooldown by 12 seconds. I'd probably take this unless you're going X-Strike with the block, the deflect build, in which case you would take Zanshin, right? Living Weapon it's not bad, honestly. If you hit a bunch of people with it, then you can get multiple X-Strikes off, so that's always good. And then the sharpened shuriken, or the sharpened stars for the shuriken now pierce all enemies. I feel like it's outshined by the other things we have here, the other talents. And then, like I said, Zanshin is really good if you can block the 6,500 damage and go for that certain build.
That talent right there with Dragon Claw, and I think dodge. No, not dodge. What's the other one? Perfect defense. Like, those three together, some damage, and like, yeah.
Yeah, it's a very, very counterplay way of playing Genji, I guess.
Right.
The one thing that I didn't notice, I'm not sure if you guys did, but I was sitting there at level 21 to be like, I don't know how close I am to getting 6,500 damage deflected here. So I was always careful. Like, I'll be like, I don't know if I want to take Zanshin here because I don't know if I'm going to be getting the reward right away or if I'm going to have to stack it up like post taking it. So that's one of the reasons I always kind of shied away from taking Zanshin. I wasn't sure if there was any indicator there. Have you guys noticed anything like that? Maybe Mystic?
I don't think I have, but generally it's not that hard to block 6,500 damage, especially if you're going for it at the beginning. Like, you just go in some of the towers when you're not being attacked or anything and just take a couple tower shots, block those. If you do that over the course of the game, you'll have 6,500 and it's not that hard.
It would be nice, though, with these types of talents, if when you hovered over it, it told you where you were at already.
Mm-hmm.
For sure, I agree. Maybe they'll be adding that in there as a quality.
There you
of life
go.
change.
Well, no, Kron, I think that's after you take the talent, though. Is that before you take the talent at 20? Can you see it so you can decide before you hit that button? That's the real question.
Kron is saying you can mouse over the W, so, I mean, we're not sure if that's confirmed before the talent taking or afterwards, but Twitch chat to the rescue, eh? You know, we can clarify next episode if we don't have an answer for everybody before. But for Genji, so what heroes pair well with Genji? You did kind of mention, Mystic, that he fits well into a lot of comps. Are there any heroes that shine better with him? I mean, you mentioned two already, Tyrael and Uther, anyone who gives that kind of divine protection for protection from CC, especially, and invulnerability for a few moments. Is there anyone else who works really well with Genji or counters Genji well?
A couple more heroes that work well with Genji, all healers probably, because Genji has no way to sustain himself, and along with his Overwatch counterpart, just I need healing. He just always needs healing. He has no way to heal it back up, and so he needs those healers, right? And then heroes that counter him effectively, if they don't have an invincibility or if they're not good with their cleanse, if there's a Genji on the other team, heroes, Sylvanas, Mind Control, or the Wailing Arrow are all really good to counter Genji. CC heroes like Valera with her stun, I guess a lot of heroes with stun or taunt, right? Because you can break Genji out of the deflect, and he's really easily taken down if he's just sitting there and just CC'd.
Yeah.
So, yeah, heroes like that.
I was going to say stuns. If you can get a stun on Genji, he's dead.
Silences work really well, too.
Yeah, so anything that's like Mouth running in, Twilight Dream, follow stun, he's dead. Like, yeah.
It's like the Stitch's hook on Malf. You might make sure that his silence is off cooldown for you. You hook Malf there, or else you just bring him into the whole team for a perfect silence on everybody.
Right. Right.
Kron did mention that you can hover over the W starting at the beginning of the game. So it's a good little tip there. Thanks, Kron, for clarifying that too. So next time I'm sitting at level 20, I'll know whether or not I should be taking Zanshin if I'm considering it based on that. So good thing to note. Okay, we've got Uther to talk about now too, because Uther, I've been finding myself playing support mainly for the past few weeks because it looks like the storyline we've taken with our new chair league team for next season. So I've been having a little bit of a go at Uther. I've been having a lot of fun with him too. So I'm not going to go over his kit in details here, just going to mention a couple of the changes because it's pretty much the same old kit he had before. The biggest change to it though is that his Eternal Devotion trait has changed slightly. So heroes healed by Uther's basic abilities gain 25 armor for 2 seconds. So this effect does not stack. Very important because he's obviously got 2 basic healing abilities, one of which has an area of effect. So upon dying, Uther still becomes invulnerable, becomes his little spirit form Uther, and he can heal you up. That hasn't changed. Also, his healing has been reduced on Holy Radiance and Holy Light, so both of his abilities, But Holy Light now, that's his point and click heal, actually heals himself for 50% of the healed amount as long as you're targeting another character. Very similar to Tyrande heal. So you generally, I mean, you do get the full heal, unlike Tyrande if you heal yourself. So if in emergency situations you can heal yourself out of a pickle, you don't have to look for the nearest minion to heal like you do with Tyrande. But still, something to note there. So he's also gained health and health regen in this too, and the ability to dole out armor. So he has become less of a pure burst healer and now a bit more of damage mitigation healer. Is that the way that we should be playing him here? Because a lot of people are saying he's not really a solo support, but he still is very powerful in his own right. What do you think, Liqiud?
I think you can still solo heal. I played a couple of games with the Uther healer. Granted, they were quick match, but solo Uther heal is fine. You do have to play slightly differently. You can't be... You used to be able to go like crazy with an Uther healer and be like, all right, he's got me, I know I'm good. Then they nerfed and changed a bunch of things, and he kind of fell out of the meta. I think we should expect him to come back. I wouldn't be surprised to see him this weekend at HCC now that they're on the 2.0 patch with the Uther changes. Because the only thing that's different for them is no Genji, right? So it would not surprise me to see Uther make a comeback. 25 armor is not something, like, that's not a small amount of armor. And if you can target your W correctly, I think it's the W, the one he throws out, right? That's his W, the wave. Yep. Like, you can hit most of your team, and especially in the pro scene, like, those guys know how to stack for a heal. So, yeah, I kind of dig new Uther.
I could see the pros really liking him too, because the damage mitigation too. Like, if this is the opposite of a Tyrande vulnerability, right? And we know how powerful that can be, and you can essentially counter that. Or if someone's getting locked down, give him 25 armor. That could be, you know, life and death, quite literally, for that hero. And we all know that pros are great at like mitigating damage with shields. This is essentially a form of a shield, right? That you're giving to your healed target there. And not to mention, Uther still got his point and click stun. So stun chaining frontline, he's a lot tankier. He's going to be having, because a lot of his abilities heal himself too, he's going to be having 25 armor up a lot of the time as well. So it makes him tanky on his own too.
I've seen a lot of Divine Storm too. Specifically because that, right? He's really tanky. He can wade in and be like, let's go. I'm going to go toe to toe. He's like right on the edge of being a bruiser. It's crazy. And he just wades in and then bam, you know, 4-man stun. And imagine what you can do with that, right? Divine Shield is awesome. But imagine your Uther goes in first, hits Divine Storm, and then you mosh pit that. Like, dude.
I got to correct you a little bit, Liqiud. He doesn't wade in, he struts in.
All right, he struts in. All right.
He's the light bringer.
I can abide by that. He struts his way into the crowd, and he's like, you guys are all stunned now, thank you.
Mystic, do you think he does enough damage as that bruiser kind of role? Because, you know, if you're slotting him in as a bruiser healer, you might be, you know, taking him in lieu of someone who fills a bruiser damage role, right? So,
you know, I found it kind of funny that you guys mentioned this, because so when I first went into a game with Uther, I tried to heal with him, just like completely healing, right? And I was like, this isn't working. He doesn't heal as much as he used to, because all those numbers are reduced. So it's like much harder if your team doesn't have its own sustain to solo heal Uther. And then so I was like, I feel like I'm much tankier though. So I was like, all right, I'm just gonna play Bruiser Uther. So I was like, all right guys, I'm playing Bruther. I'm going in, I'm doing as much damage as I can. I throw out heals to you guys, but I'm gonna do as much damage as I can with the level 4 talent that we're coming up. Holy shock.
Yep.
Oh, holy
well,
shock.
like what's interesting to me is he feels almost very Karazim-like, right? So he's not quite there. I wouldn't say he's a straight up Karazim replacement, but could you imagine him and Karazim on a team together? Like they would just wreck. Like that's a front line in and of itself. And then you add a tank into that, and you have like a pretty solid 3-man team, right? You have, let's say you go Muradin just to like really screw with people, right? Lots of stuns, huge front line, right, with Uther, Karazim, and Muradin. You can pick this. You can put Chromie behind that with Vala or Chromie and Gul'dan or like anything, right? And you would just wreck. If you can survive the initial clash, absolutely wreck the other team.
I think the real big thing Uther brings to the table, I mentioned it before, is we don't have many healers with hard CC. I mean, that's one of the reasons Malf has been so prominent too, is not to mention his healing output was augmented a bit, but just having the AoE root here, having that stun for either stun chaining or helping peel is a very powerful tool to have in the kit. Not to mention he's got, I mean, how long has it been since we've seen our divine shields out there too, which is an amazing counter burst talent, and there's a lot of bursts, especially in the pro scene, that you got to be careful of. So Uther he's got a lot in his tool belt. Maybe not so much as Piano Key Uther had in the past in terms of all the different kinds of tools, but he still in his own right has a lot of talent diversity here, and maybe that's a good cue to go into the talent tree here.
I want to point out one thing, just since we're talking about Divine Storm versus Shield. Like, it's 58-42, so it's really, really close too for high level play. So I think, yeah, I like Uther.
Yeah, well, let's go into his talent tree then. So level 1, he's got his questing talents. This is where Uther definitely has mana issues. At least whenever I play him, he does. And level 1 is where you make the choice on how you want to try and mitigate those issues to the best of your abilities. So is it going to be on the Q, the W, or just auto-attacking to get your mana back? So first off is his Q. Basically, anytime, it's called Silver Touch. The quest is reduce damage from heroic sources with Eternal Devotion. Oh, sorry, so this is more for his passive. So after reducing damage 40 times, Holy Light's mana cost is reduced from 90 to 70, and after reducing damage 80 times, Holy Light's mana cost is reduced to 50, and its range is increased by 50%. So you're basically getting quite the mana reduction off his highest mana cost talent, his Q. W, a Wave of Light, is his next talent. Passive is damaging or healing heroes with Holy Radiance, refunds 10 mana and reduces its cooldown by 1 second, so you can get quite a bit of mana refund if you're good at lining up those heals. The questing talent portion of it is damage or heal heroes 60 times with Holy Radiance, and you get an increase to the duration of Eternal Devotion by 1 second, so you get 3 seconds of armor instead of 2. And then final talent on this tier, Hammer of the Lightbringer. This is a passive. Basic attacks restore 1.5% of Uther's maximum mana. It's also a quest component as well. Basic attack enemies 75 times, and then basic attack reduce the cooldown of Hammer of Justice by 1 second, and that is there. So what do you think here, Mystic, is the best to take at level 1? I've been taking Wave of Light mostly because that extra second on Eternal Devotion is pretty powerful, and you get a lot of mana back using the Wave of Light.
Yeah, I think the Wave of Light is generally the one that you want to take if you're wanting to do any amount of healing. I feel like Silver Touch, once it's stacked, is more of a selfish Holy Shock talent where, since the range is so large, you can just sit there zapping their backline every 6 seconds or so. Hammer of the Lightbringer is, I feel like it's just outshined by the other two talents. While it does give you a lot of mana, and if their front line is like very melee heavy, then you can get a bunch of these Hammer of Justices off, so you can pair it with the well-met talent of I think 16, which reduces the damage that they deal by 25%, so that synergizes there. But yeah, that's really niche, I think.
Yeah, Wave of Light, I think, is generally the best talent, but the nice thing about Uther that I've noticed about his talent tree is a lot of things are situational as well. And Hammer of the Lightbringer, I meant you can actually use those on minions and mercs too to get your mana back up if you are in a pickle for mana too. So it's a little side note on Hammer of the Lightbringer. So in level 4, we've got Holy Shock. So Holy Light can be used on an enemy to do half of its healing amount as damage. When used this way, Uther receives its self-healing benefits. Its cooldown is reduced by 6 seconds, and it refunds 45 mana. So if you couple this with Silver Touch at 1, you're talking about a 5 mana damage ability that's on a 6-second cooldown. So that's fairly significant there. Okay, so next on this level, we got Pursuit of Justice. Hammer of Justice increased Uther movement speed by 20% for 3 seconds. That's on his stun. And finally, Holy Fire. Deal burn damage per second to nearby enemies. Basic attacks against enemy heroes increase this damage by 20% for 3 seconds, can stack up to 3 times. So Mystic, and it looks like Ogre in chat there is loving the Holy Shock. Is this the go-to talent here? I mean, I take Pursuit of Justice because I'm a chicken. And I like stunning and running. Stunning and running, I find, is awfully useful for getting away. But that's just me. I'm a chicken Uther.
Uther doesn't run away from battles. He runs
No.
straight in. So no need for running away. I like Holy Shock, like you said, and then Holy Fire isn't bad, but I feel like it's outshined by Holy Shock.
A lot of people take Holy Fire. That's the higher pick talent.
Oh, is it?
And yes, in every game, and I'm only looking at Master Diamond right now, to be fair. That's the higher pick talent. In every game I've been in with an Uther, he's gone Holy Fire.
It does give you a little bit more wave clear too. One thing Uther doesn't have any of is wave clear unless you take something like that as well.
Right.
Okay, moving on to the next level, 7's Armor of Faith. Being stunned, rooted, or silenced causes Holy Light's cooldown to recharge 100% faster for 6 seconds. Damn. Okay, Guardian of Ancient Kings. This affects his trait. So healing a hero that is stunned, rooted, or silenced increases the armor bonus they receive from Eternal Devotion from 25 to 75. Holy damn. And then finally, Hand of Protection. This is basically his version of Cleanse. It's on a 90-second cooldown. It's activatable. Activate to make a target ally unstoppable for 1 second. Cannot be cast on Uther. Basic attacks reduce Hand of Protection's cooldown by 5 seconds. So I was going Cleanse, but I mean, there's definitely an argument to be said for Guardian of the Ancient Kings if you're talking about damage mitigation. And maybe lockdown isn't as much of an issue, but maybe you're looking at, protecting everybody from a 4-man mosh pit or something that you might not be in. Liqiud, you're shaking your head. What are you thinking about this?
All right, listen. I have a bone to pick with this, and I've had a bone to pick with this level 7 talent since the beginning of time. It's not Hand of Protection. Hand of Protection is not unstoppable. Hand of Protection is you can't take any damage. Hand of Freedom is your unstoppable. It's a freaking paladin, Blizzard, from your own game. Get it together. All right. Anyway, ignoring that,
World of Warcraft nerds unite.
I actually like Guardian of the Ancient Kings, but again, this is probably because of a World of Warcraft thing. I played Paladin tank for 2.5 expansions. I mean, I popped Guardian of the Ancient Kings all the time because it was just a rotational cooldown for my Paladin. But I mean, I Hand of Protection is the better talent. I hate it so much because it's not really what it is. I hate it so much.
Mystic, where would you take Guardian of Ancient Kings over Hand of Protection to? Because one is, like, Cleanse is pretty powerful, gets you out of the roots and stuns. The other one protects you when you're in the roots and stuns, and potentially you can throw on multiple heroes at the same time. So where are you taking one over the other?
See, I honestly think that it's very even. Hand of Protection and Guardian of Ancient Kings, like, think about this for a second, right? Think of the situations where you need to cleanse someone. Now, think of if you have Guardians of Ancient Kings instead of cleansing them, you've given them 75 armor, which is almost the same thing, I'd like to say, right? Because if an ETC stuns them, and then you can either Hand of Protection, which is the cleanse, or Guardian of Ancient Kings, right? If you cleanse them, then they can run away quicker. If you heal them with Guardian of Ancient Kings, they have 75 armor, so they're not going to be taking that much damage anyway. I feel like that's almost the same thing, except that, it's just kind of what you want.
I like it better because if you're outside of the mosh, you can put that on all the heroes in the mosh.
I guess the other thing, too, is the Cleanse doesn't stop damage, right?
No.
So,
which it should if they fixed it, and it did, like it's supposed
but
to.
then it'd be a heroic
okay.
called Divine Shield.
Well, that was the problem, right? So they shouldn't. I mean, the problem is they called it Hand of Protection. If they'd gone Hand of Freedom, I'd be okay with it. But excuse me, I think Guardian of the Ancient Kings is just nicer. If you think about, like, Mosh Pit happens and everybody tries to wombo. If everybody you're trying to wombo against has 75 armor, you're not womboing.
Yeah, of course, Uther may be caught in the mosh pit. It doesn't help anybody, but neither would the Cleanse in that situation, too. Okay, let's keep moving along because we're running a little bit long in the tooth in the show so far. So level 13, we got Blessed Champion. After using Holy Light, your basic attacks heal you and nearby allied heroes for 15% of the healed amount. Lasts for 5 seconds. Well met. When using against heroes, Hammer of Justice reduces target's movement speed and damage dealt by 25% for 3 seconds. And then Spell Shield, every 30 seconds, gain 50 spell armor against next enemy ability and subsequent abilities for 1.5 seconds, reducing the damage taken by 50%. Can be toggled, obviously, to be allowed or prevent this talent from triggering automatically. So, Mystic, what are we taking here?
I like the well-met talent because teams are usually having like a warrior that does a lot of damage, like Sonya. So if you pop it on them, then 25% reduced damage. If you pop it on a frontliner that has moved a bit too far forward, or if you slipped through their front line into their back line a little bit, just pop it on their best damage dealer, then they have 25% reduced damage. Bless Champion is a lot better on maps where you have a target that you can hit. For example, like Infernal Shrines, right? You can hit those little minions when you heal someone, then they heal up. Spell Shield is more of a bruiser talent, but it doesn't really give you that much. Just a little bit more survivability, which I don't think Uther needs that much anyway.
I guess well-met's kind of like a shrink ray with a stun, right? Too. So sliding that in there.
Much lower cooldown, too.
Yeah, but I guess it's probably less damage and movement speed done. The shrink rate is more than 25%, right?
Oh yeah, it's like 75.
It's pretty
mini shrink rate.
Yeah. Okay, level 16s, we got Beacon of Light. While below 50% health, Uther receives 200% more self-healing when healing others with Holy Light. Tears Deliverance. Allies healed by Holy Radiance receive 40% increased healing from all sources for 6 seconds. And then Benediction. 40-second cooldown of Activate to reduce the mana cost of your next basic ability by 50 and its cooldown by 10 seconds. Benediction's the old go-to. Is it still the old go-to here?
I really like Benediction. I think Tears Deliverance is actually a really good talent, especially if you pair it up with like a Lucio or something. Because if you throw out the Holy Radiance, 25% armor, 40% increased healing from that Lucio, you're probably not dying for the next like 6 seconds.
You can get through 3 wombos and still not die too. Because I mean, at level 16, that's where Lucio, his output healing goes up pretty significantly too with Rejuvenancia. So getting an extra 40% on top of that, and we know that Uther's going to be in a lot of dual healing comps, especially in pro play. I wouldn't be surprised if this is one of the go-tos there.
Guardian plus Tears Deliverance plus Lucio, like forget it, it's over. But I just want to throw out there again. Blizzard, Beacon of Light, really? That's not right. That's not how that's used. Come on, man. I think the Heroes team needs to go sit with the WoW team for a little while.
No, they just need to sit with Liqiud for a little while.
No. Look, I don't know everything. I know Paladin just because I spent a lot of time on Paladin. That's not right. Come on. Please. Blizzard, please.
Okay, level 20s, Bulk Word of Light. Divine Shield lasts 2 seconds longer and its cooldown is reduced by 20 seconds. Divine Hurricane. Divine Storm's radius is increased by 50% and its cooldown is reduced by 20 seconds. Redemption. After Eternal Devotion ends, return to 50% of your maximum health at your spirit's location. This effect has a 180-second cooldown. And Divine Protection. Eternal Devotion now stacks twice, and its duration is refreshed when applied. So, I mean, you can get, 50 armor there instead of the 25 baseline. I'm assuming this stacks with your, what is it called? Guardian Ancient Kings. Obviously, Guardian Ancient Kings, you can't get more than 75 mitigation in the game. There's a cap there. But still, it's nice to know these things are stackable. So what are you taking here, Mystic?
I mean, they're all really good talents. If you're taking Divine Shield, then Bulwark of Light is a pretty good choice, but then there's also Redemption, right? They're both pretty good. I'd say almost all of them are really good choices depending on what you need at the moment. Because, like, Eternal Devotion, if you have a Benediction, right, then you can double Radiant, or double throw out the wave, right? And that's 50% armor for your entire team for, like, let's just say you take about a second to throw out the second one. That's like 7 seconds. Yeah, 7 seconds of 50. No, the first second is like the first 3 is 25%, and then the rest 4 is like 50%, right? So that's a lot of armor for your team.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
the ultimate upgrades aren't bad either. So,
but Redemption has always been the most popular pick there.
Mm-hmm.
And not that we're advocating for you to flame, but there are a lot of people in Hero League that will flame you if you don't go Redemption. So just
and the fact that did you get the armor on the heals from Redemption, or sorry, from your Eternal Devotion? on healer? Like,
You
do you know?
you do.
Okay, so you could like that's quick cooldown, so you can almost
Yeah.
die, throw armor out like it's going out of style, come back to life, and you're back in the fight too, right? I mean,
Right.
maybe you shouldn't be advocating dying on purpose, but it could help your team in the end.
No, there's either Bakery or Dreadnought used to say with Uther there were definitely times to die. What, you're out of mana and you're post 20? Die.
Yeah, I guess so.
Heal, come back to life and you're good to go. And even pre 20,
How does
if-
the
if
mana
it-
work with
there
redemption?
is no mana when you're dead.
No, but when you come back, do you get mana back?
I think
I don't think you
it's
get any mana. I think it just doesn't it just bring you back with 50% HP and whatever mana you had.
Likely. I
don't
just can't
know.
remember offhand. I've been playing enough Uther with
and it might their comments may have been pre 20, pre redemption. It's Uther's been out of the scene for so long that it's hard to like
recall.
It's been a
I'm sure
while,
this is something
yeah.
we'll all know just by second nature shortly. Maybe someone in Twitch chat will help us clarify there. But you know what? We're getting close to the end of the show, so I want to quickly go over Hanamura because it's in the show title, so I feel like we have to cover it at least to some extent. I'm not going to go over the details of the map. I'm assuming probably most people have played it. Just going to go over the general gist. It's a 2-lane map, and it's got a payload mechanic. So that's how you damage the core. You need to escort payloads from their start points to their end points. The more heroes you have escorting the payload, the faster it goes. If an enemy is within the range of the payload becomes contested and actually will sit there or move backwards if you're not in the range of that for a certain amount of time being on the team that's trying to escort the payload. So one thing that I want to talk to you specifically was a little bit of the strategy on Hanamura here. The first thing that it took me a while to figure out, and I needed to do some research to figure it out, was the actual timings, because I think there's not a lot of information out there on when the payloads spawn. A lot of people I've heard a lot of people say different things, but I was trying to get an actual confirmation on it. So the way that it works, the first payload for each team spawns at 2 minutes and 30 seconds. The second is also fixed time at 4 minutes and 30 seconds. So each of those payloads has a respawn timer after it's been delivered. After the final shot's been fired, it will respawn 4 minutes after that final shot's fired. So that's where I think a lot of confusion was coming up. People weren't sure, like, okay, well, once you start escorting it, is there some sort of like timer there? But it's actually after you deliver it, then that specific one will start over again for the next 4 minutes. So go ahead, Liquid.
I was just gonna say that's how you end up with the back-to-back ones.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Okay.
and you can have two at a time, right? If you
Right.
have an escort your first one by 4 minutes and 30 seconds, you'll have two of them. If you get them both in at the same time, you'll get two coming
Right.
back again at the same time, again 4 minutes later, which seems like an eternity. And I remember I had some games being like, where is our payload? Like, we're sitting there stalling forever. It's because it just, we cashed two in at the same time. The other team's got a couple coming in. So that's where I guess the confusion lies, and there's a lot of people being on the Reddit like, where are the payloads? How does this work? That's the way that it goes. So another, I guess, kind of important note too, the boss spawn timer is actually fairly lengthy. The boss comes at 5 minutes. It's a 5-minute respawn timer, which makes sense because it does 1 damage to the core. You don't want that thing respawning every few minutes because that's obviously a lot of damage doing to the core. So a few other things too, just to mention before we get into a little bit of the general discussion on strategy here. If you take forts or keeps, it does add an extra shot to the core for your next successfully escorted payload. And I know I didn't mention off the top, the cores have 7 health. So, an extra shot or two from successfully taking down a fort or a keep can add up very quickly. So Hanamura has been seen as a very hectic and chaotic map. The merc camps, a lot of people have been focusing on too because they're very unique. I won't go into exactly how they are unique here, except for the fact that they have a lot of XP tied to them, more so than most of your standard merc camps. A lot of people are saying you should be jungling a lot, but a lot of people say there's no time to jungle because there's so many other things you got to worry about. So I guess it's my first question, and maybe I'll pass this over to Mystic. What's the general best strategy here? The payloads initially spawn. Do you go offense? Do you go defense? Do you leave people to soak? Should you be merking? What should you be doing on this map?
Okay, so the generally accepted strategy seems like now the meta on this map that has developed is ignore the first payload, just push, take down the keeps, and then essentially if you take down the keep, then those 2 shots that you get on your other payload, right, is going to kind of mitigate out their first shot. And then so once you have you never want to have more than 2 payloads, right? You just want to keep them spawning so that you just take out the keeps, and then you turn in your payloads. And then after that, you just keep pushing. If you take out or I guess 4, if you take out a keep, then that is actually a real big pain to the enemy team, because if you take out a keep, then those sappers will keep spawning, and they have to keep taking them out every single wave, or else, they'll take a shot off of the core, right? And then the Merc camps, as far as those go, I think it's really good to have either a Murky or even a Nova, right? Someone with Bribe to instantly go take those camps, because they give experience, unlike the other maps, right? They give experience, and some of the camps have like one Merc, which is really easy for like Murky or Nova or anybody with Bribe to take them out really, really easily.
One thing I noticed, you saying ignore the first payload. One thing I did notice, though, is the team that, if they're both going for it, the team to get their payload in first, if they're really quick about it, has the opportunity to go and stall out the other payload and potentially prevent that from cashing in for maybe even a couple of minutes. Is that not a solid tactic here, to try and stall out the other team's payloads as much as possible, given that you're delaying their respawn timers on their payloads along the way by doing so?
No, that is a legitimate defense to the said strat. However, eventually you're going to have to break some of your people away to take your other payload, or even, I guess, not even take their payload. But so they have 2 shots, and then so your second one spawns, your second one spawns, and then they have 2, right? But one of them has 2 shots, so then that kind of evens out right there, except you're a fort down. And then if they keep pushing and they take your keep, then that's a problem, and then you kind of have to even it out by trying to take their forts. But if they pick a pushing team and you pick a more team fighting team, then it's kind of like up in the air a little bit, but it's kind of how you play it.
A lot of teams are complaining, a lot of people are complaining about this map, but I'm actually pretty excited that I feel like there can be a lot of strategies that can develop here. I know Liquid's going to be excited to see this in pro play, however long it's going to be before we start seeing it in pro play, but just to see what the pros do here, because I feel like it does have a lot of opportunity for very streamlined and targeted strats too.
I don't, just to touch on that, because you gave me my opening and I'm going to, because you know me. I don't think we'll see this. At the very least, we won't see it before the midseason brawl. But I think they set the map pool for the entire season, which runs all the way through BlizzCon, which means we won't see this new map until next season starts, HGC 2018.
Well, that's unfortunate. I was under the impression it might be an option after the mid-season brawl there, but I guess not.
The rules aren't really specific around there that I've been able to see, other than they have their the 9-map pool, and so all of the wording on the articles say for the phase. But I haven't seen anything that talks about, I haven't found anything from Blizzard other than Season 1, right? And HGC Season 1 refers to the entire season. So,
yeah, it's tough to say. So, Mystic, before we wrap up the show, we should, because we're getting a little bit closer to the hour 40-minute mark here, talk to me about Asmodan here, because I've been seeing a lot of people saying that he's OP on this map. Is he first pick on this map because of this?
I'd almost say that he is, mainly due to the fact because he can send out his Demon General, which is on his trait, that he can soak up lanes while everybody's doing their thing, right? Since this map is very hectic, you have a lot of stuff to be doing at once, you can put that Demon General in somewhere where someone would just be pushing the lane, soaking the lane anyway, and it essentially gives you an extra body on the map, right? Which is similar to Vikings in this case, because he kind of does that same sort of job here.
Vikings are OP here. If you have a good Vikings player, forget it, dude. Oh my god. I was playing against a team, Baylog, that's the tanky one, I think. Always sitting in lane soaking. Olaf, right. Thank you. Always sitting in lane soaking. The other 2 escorting payloads, while the other 4 either soaked or destroyed the rest of our team.
They can also take camps.
Yeah.
Right. It was insane. It was insane.
They've got everything
So-
everything that's required to be a strong group. They got the bodies on the map. They got the
Right.
soaking ability, the bribery, pretty much everything you can think of here. Is there any argument for, like, we talk about bribery, which can be very powerful, especially for the support camp that only takes one stack of bribe, but is there any advantage to having like a jungling hero here just to focus on camps, or is there time for that with everything else that's going on between pushing and contesting and pushing your payloads?
If they can take out jungle camps super fast, then you can argue that you could take a jungler hero here. But bribe is just so much more efficient because while you're laning anyway, while you're soaking XP, you're already getting stacks, you know, either murky or if you're bright wing, you're healing, right? And you can just walk over, instant take the camp, and it's
Right.
much faster than someone jungling all the time, right?
Even Volstead.
Mm.
Yep. So I mean, there's a lot of different strategies I think that are still going to be shaking out, especially as we see, like, you know, leading up to seeing pros take hold of these maps too, and seeing what they're going to be putting in place here. So I think because I'd love to talk about Hanamura a little bit more. Maybe we'll have to save it for a later show. Maybe we'll revisit Hanamura as we see some more pro play with it. But I think we're going to end the show here just because this is kind of our sweet spot. Typically the hour 45-minute mark is where we like to hit. And we seem to invariably hit it no matter what we do, no matter what. So, hey, why not? So thanks everybody for listening to Nexus Trolls. It's a Heroes of the Storm podcast. We stream live on our Twitch channel. That's twitch.tv/the Nexus Trolls every week on Wednesdays at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 p.m. Pacific. So Liqiud, people are looking for you on the interwebs. Where can they find you, sir?
So what's interesting is it's actually the off season of Chair League and the off season HEC North America Open Division is going into its playoffs. I won't be casting those, and then they're off until they do Crucible. So I'm actually not streaming very much right now, but your best bet, follow me on Twitter at LiqiudGG, LiQIUDGG. I tweet when I'm going live, whether it's with the Nexus Trolls, whether it's with 323 Weekly over at DB Smiley's channel, or whether it's just some crazy thought that I had where I'm wearing my tinfoil hat. I definitely tweet out there. That's the best place to follow me.
And Mystic, do you tweet as much as Liqiud does?
Probably not, but I should start getting the habit of tweeting. If you have any, I don't know, topics for Mystic's Shakedown, or just want to send me a message or something, you can send messages to me at Mystic Shroud on Twitter, or you can send them to the Nexus Trolls email.
Have you tweeted yet, Mystic?
I have not.
Not even a single tweet? Oh my gosh. For those of you that don't know, Mystic, we forced him to join Twitter maybe 3 weeks ago. And obviously it's been going really well. Not a single tweet, but
Eventually.
we gotta goad him and do his little hello world there. Okay, so I want to thank all our Patreon supporters over at patreon.com. If you like the show and you're looking for to support us, head over to patreon.com/the Nexus Trolls. By the way, everybody, we're going to be doing some after show games afterwards if you didn't catch it off the top of the show. So stick around. If you're hanging around in Twitch chat, we're going to be playing a few games, maybe 10 minutes after the show stops. But in general, too, you can find us hanging around in-game at the channel, just /join the Nexus Trolls. We're promoting that a little bit more heavily here, so you can, feel free to hit us up in game too. We'd love to play games with some listeners. You can email us too. Mystic mentioned you can email ideas and suggestions for the show, including Mystic Shakedown, Dr. Daz's Science Lab, or maybe some hot debate topics at podcast@thenexustrolls.com. And you can also tweet at us at the Nexus Trolls. You can also find me online if you're looking for my personal account at DazHots. And you can also subscribe to our show on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, or wherever you happen to find your podcasts online. And also visit our website. Damn, this is getting long. We've been adding more and more stuff as we've been going. You can visit our website at www.thenexustrolls.com to watch this and past shows, along with our past video streams, which can also be found on our YouTube channel.
Wait till next week.
Yeah, I know. We got some news drop next week. A little teaser. There's an event that we're going to be announcing next week, so stay tuned for next week for that announcement too. But that being said, everyone, thanks for watching. Have a great week.